Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 This afternoon's reading is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10. I've got a different book to you, so it's probably on a different page. Pardon?
519.
519. Page 519. Everybody got that? Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Pritipurvakam
Kadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Kadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Kadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Someone else like to?
Tesham sasatam yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Satam pritipurvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Dadam buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Satam kriti purvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Ladies.
Tesham satata yuktanam.
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam.
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam.
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te.
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham satata yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Vajatam pritipurvakam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena mam upayanti te
Yena mam upayanti te
Tesham.
Tesham.
Unto them.
Unto them.
Satata yuktanam.
Satata yuktanam
Always engaged.
Always engaged.
Vajatam.
Vajatam.
Devotional service. Pritipurvakam.
Pritipurvakam
Loving ecstasy.
Loving ecstasy.
Dami.
Dadami.
I give. Buddhi yogam.
Buddhi yogam
Real intelligence.
Real intelligence.
Tam.
Tam.
That. Yena.
Yena.
By which.
By which.
Mam.
Mam.
Unto me.
Unto me.
Upayanti.
Upayanti.
Nam. Te. They. Translation. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Please repeat. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the word Buddhi Yoga is very significant. We may remember that in the second chapter, the Lord instructing Arjuna, said that he had spoken to him of many things, and he would instruct him in the way of Buddhi Yoga. Now, Buddhi Yoga was explained. Buddhi Yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness. That's the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, his action is called Buddha Yoga. In other words, Buddha Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of the material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this, therefore the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna. And when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. When a person knows the goal of life and is addicted to the fruits of activities, he's acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculations to understand Krishna, he's acting in Jnana yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he's acting in Bhakti yoga or Buddha yoga, which is the complete yoga. This complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master, may be attached to a spiritual organization, but still, if he's not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instruction so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that the person always engaged himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of service. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is intelligent enough, he will make progress on the path of self-realization. If one is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. I'll begin out around this charge and Vilashanaka, Taksho Militamina, Tasmashri Guru Maha, Vachikapatri Vishak, Visinda Bevitam, Baditavam Pavan Helio, Master Baby Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sarivara Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's repeat the verse again. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I'll give the understanding by which they can come to me. It's okay, you've already done it. So I'd like to welcome everybody this afternoon to our program, Hare Krishna Temple. I'd like to thank Vashishrestha Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to say something this afternoon. I seek the blessings of all the devotees here so that I may say something which is meaningful and relevant to you. So this particular verse in the Bhagavad Gita is one of the 4 seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which are found next to one another in the 10th chapter. It's a very important verse. It's very important for us because it's talking about Buddha Yoga. It's talking about those persons who are sincerely seeking Krishna, and therefore they are devoted to Krishna. They're worshipping him with love, so that ultimately they can come to Krishna. The word yoga is used a lot, actually, in the Bhagavad Gita. Generally, ordinary people's understanding of yoga generally refers to hatha yoga, where people generally they seek some health, they seek some bodily improvements or some well-being, or even they might try to find some sense of spirituality in that as well. And here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he mentions 3 different types of yoga, which are also covered in the Bhagavad Gita. He talks about karma yoga, Jnana yoga, and bhakti yoga. So Prabhupada is saying that someone who may know what the goal of life is, but he's actually addicted to the fruits of his activities. And this is someone who's engaged maybe in karma yoga. They may approach the Lord, but they approach it with the idea that perhaps they want something from the Lord. They may visit some place of worship, maybe a temple, a mosque, or a church perhaps, and they may go along and pray, but they may pray for material benediction. They may want money, they may want prestige, they may want fame, they want some of these things. They may want their son to pass their exams in that way. So Srila Prabhupada elsewhere, he says that those persons who are, they're approaching the Lord, but they're approaching him with a material idea, because basically speaking, they are addicted to activities which basically end in sense gratification, in sense enjoyment, the pleasures of the body. And so he is saying here that this, practically speaking, this isn't really love. This is like business, really. That someone may go along and they may practice like that, but they don't really love the Lord. Also, in terms of karma yoga, someone may also sincerely go along to a place of worship, and they may go along out of a sense of duty, but there may also be some expectation of a reward, like they may want to get to heaven, they may want to get to paradise. In the Bhagavatam there's a description of the heavenly planets, and when you read it you think, well, that sounds very nice. People they have free love, they drink somarasa wine, they hear wonderful music, there's pleasure gardens, there's wonderful fruits and honey and that kind of thing. So it sounds very pleasurable. People live for a very, very long time, thousands and thousands, some tens of thousands of years. But actually, even when one goes to those places, you have to come back again here. So it's not permanent. So also, Prabhupada talks about the Gyanis, people who practice Gyan Yoga. There's two really types of those persons. One of the Prabhupada mentions here is that people who try to understand the Lord by the power of their own reasoning, by logic, like that. Elsewhere in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions these people as munis. They're philosophers, great thinkers. That's what muni basically means. It means someone who thinks. And Prabhupada says there that one of the characteristics of someone who's a great muni, a great philosopher, is that they want to come up with some theory which is better than anybody else's, so that they can get some prestige for that. I remember when I took up Krishna consciousness, first of all, when I was living in Ireland, I used to work in a health food shop, and the chap who owned it was also a young person. But he said to me, because I gave him a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, but he said to me, I just don't accept something just because it makes sense. So in other words, he likes to understand complicated things so that you get some renown for that. So this is the munis. These are people who want to understand Krishna by the power of their own intellect, or by speculating different theories about the Lord, which is imperfect. Similarly, the other types of Gyanis are those persons who actually want to merge into the Supreme. These type of persons generally, they are not like gross materialists. Like the karma yogis, they may be very satisfied with material life. They don't see anything inherently wrong in that. But the Gyanis, they can see deficiencies in material life, and so sometimes they want moksha, they want liberation, they want to get out of here. But because they don't really have a clear understanding about Krishna, therefore they want to merge into the Supreme. They want to get some kind of impersonal liberation in that way. So this is Gyan Yoga. And then finally we come to Bhakti Yoga, where as we're saying in the translation, that Srila Prabhupada says that the practitioner here, he knows that Krishna is the goal, but he's seeking Krishna. That he's not after material enjoyment, he doesn't want impersonal liberation, and therefore he actually wants to make some progress on the path of bhakti. So elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yayita mam prapadyante tam stadaiva bhayanyaham mamavam manamatante manusha partasavasaham. He says, all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So Krishna is saying, Krishna is very kind, actually. Initially, obviously, he's very kind because he allows us to come to this material world. When in the spiritual world, we are servants of Krishna, but because we are marginal potency, we have, like Krishna has full independence, we also have independence. So it means that we don't have to serve Krishna if we don't want to. So therefore Krishna provides a facility for us to come to the material world. This is what this place is all about. It's about us trying to imitate Krishna and be the proprietor, the enjoyer, and the what's the other one? Proprietor, enjoyer, and what is it? Proprietor, enjoyer, and I can't remember the other one, but anyway. So similarly, even in when we're in the material. Something else anyway. I'll get it eventually. I say Krishna is kind in that if somebody wants material enjoyment, if someone wants material benediction, he gives them that. If somebody wants to merge into the Supreme, and we understand that merging into the Supreme means merging into the Brahma Jyoti. It's Krishna's effulgence. That he gives that. Even if someone wants mystic powers, in India you see these yogis, they practice incredible austerities, something like standing on one leg for years on end. And because of these type of austerities, they get these incredible powers. But it's still material, you know, it's still functioning within the material realm. It's not really spiritual. So Krishna knows what we want. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, here it is Arjuna Tistate, Brahmayam Sarva Bhutane, Yantra Rudani Mayaya. In the 18th chapter, Krishna says to Arjuna that I am seated in the heart of all living entities. I'm directing the wandering of all of them, and of the living entities, and they are seated as on a machine, yantra, which is made of the material energy. So this body is like a car. It's like a vehicle, like that. Krishna, he's seated in the heart, and he knows all our desires. He's seated in the heart of every living being, even the animals and the birds and the plants. He knows. This is the meaning of the Supreme. Someone who's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He can do everything. He's omniscient. There's one purport where Srila Prabhupada says that some people have an idea that Krishna's a bit like Atlas. This person Atlas, who has the world on his shoulder, and like he's struggling with it, trying to carry the world. And Prabhupada said you shouldn't think of Krishna in this way, because he can expand himself unlimitedly, and he can do anything just like that, simply by his willpower. So Krishna is omnipotent. He has inconceivable power in that way. So Krishna's in the heart. He knows what we want. As I say, if somebody wants material enjoyment, he gives them that. If somebody wants mystic powers, he can give them. And if somebody wants him, then he can give himself. And so here in this particular translation, Krishna is saying to Arjuna that I can help you. Come to me if you render love and loving service and devotion. Also, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described that akarma sarvakarma mokshakarma udariti, also that even if one has no desires, if one is full of desires, or if one is desires for liberation, by all means one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We may come to Krishna consciousness, but we're not automatically practicing devotion or worship in love. We may have other desires. We may, we may be very materialistic. We may be full of desires, but it's stated there that it doesn't matter. And there's a story in this regard. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described about the story of Dhruva Maharaj. This story goes back a long way. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam is not sequential, it doesn't follow a historical section like that. So I think Dhruva Maharaj must have lived millions of years ago, actually, which is one in the eye for modern scientists and archaeologists, because they say that human beings have only existed for like 100,000 years. But if you can understand from the Vedic literature that the history of the human race goes back millions of years. Anyway, so Dhruva Maharaj was just a young boy. He was only 7 years old, 7 years of age in this story. He was the son of a great king called Uttanipad. And King Uttanipad had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi. And Suniti was his favourite wife. And practically speaking, he neglected the other wife, Suruchi. So anyway, one time, Suniti, his favourite wife, her son, was sitting on the lap of King Uttanipad. And Suruchi's son, Dhruva, saw that. And he wanted to sit on his father's lap as well, but the king didn't really want him to, because he knew that his favourite queen would not approve of that. So he didn't let him sit on the throne, on his lap. So Dhruva Maharaj became very angry like that. And the king's favourite queen, Suniti, said to him that because you're not born of my womb, you can't sit on the lap of the king. You're not favoured. Your mother isn't favoured by the king. I said, if you want to sit on the king's lap, you have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so that in your next life you'll be born in my womb, and then when you take birth, then you can sit on your father's lap like that. So Dhruva Maharaj was furious actually with this, even though he was a child. But maybe because he was a child, he became very angry, and he went to his mother and told her the whole story, how he wasn't allowed to sit on the lap of his father, and was this right? And so his mother said, actually, your stepmother is correct. I'm no longer favoured by the king, so therefore I have no rights to allow you to sit on his lap. So and she said, Suniti is correct, that if you want to be able to achieve this, you'll have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Dhruva Maharaj asked his mother, well, where can I find the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Well, she said, all the great sages, they go to the forest to try to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Dhruva Maharaj immediately left for the forest. He was only 7 years old, but he was so determined that actually he wanted to, he was so upset that he wanted to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he went to the forest. But actually when he was in the forest, he met a great sage. He met Narada Muni. Narada Muni is called Raja Rishi. He's a great sage amongst the demigods. He's probably the most perfect devotee in the whole planet. I mean, he actually wanders around the whole universe preaching the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prahlad Maharaj was a disciple of Narada Muni. So many other great personalities took instruction from Narada Muni. So Narada Muni approached Dhruva Maharaj and asked him what was going on, and Dhruva Maharaj told Narada Muni that I've been insulted in this way. Not only that, but not only have I come to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I want to gain the greatest kingdom that there ever has been, greater than my father, greater than my grandfather, like that. I want the most opulent, the biggest kingdom of all, just to get my own back. So Narada Muni could see that Dhruva Maharaj was very intent to try to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he instructed him on the spiritual path. He told him to go to the Ganges River. He told him that he would have to sit in the lotus position. He would have to practice pranayam. And he gave him this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, to chant. It's like we have the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We chant this mantra to try to find Krishna. So Dhruva Maharaj was also given spiritual instructions from Narada Muni to become perfect and to try to come and actually achieve the favour of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Dhruva Maharaj, for the first few weeks, he only lived on berries, fruits and berries from the trees, and drank a little water. And later on, he only ate dried leaves and grass. And finally, he stopped eating altogether. And he engaged in this pranayama, this breathing exercises. And he did it to such a severe extent that he was choking up the whole universe. And the demigods approached Lord Vishnu and said, we can't breathe here because something's going on, down there on the earth planet. So Lord Vishnu said, I know what that is. That's my devotee Dhruva Maharaj, who is engaged in this pranayama. Prior to, and so Lord Vishnu said to the demigods, I will go down and see him. So during his spiritual practices, Dhruva Maharaj had come to such a stage that he could actually visualize the Lord in his heart, the four-armed form of Vishnu. This particular process is also delineated in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita called Dhyana Yoga, where Krishna says that practitioner should turn off their mobile phone and so the practitioner should go to a holy place or go to the Himalayas. Should lay kusha grass on the ground, lay the deer skin, sit in the lotus position, and meditate upon me within the heart, without any thought of any kind of material enjoyment, material desires, any sex desire, anything like that. It's a very extreme form of meditation. Srila Prabhupada says that, practically speaking, in this age we can't engage in that because it's too difficult, especially living in places like towns and cities, which are very, very noisy and very materially surcharged in that way. So anyway, Dhruva Maharaj had actually reached to the point where he could actually visualize the four-armed form of Vishnu in the heart. This is called the Paramatma. We were talking earlier on how Krishna is present within the heart of every living entity. And by yogic practice, you can actually visualize that form in the heart. So Dhruva Maharaj had done that. So anyway, he was engaged in this meditation, and then suddenly his meditation broke, and externally he saw the four-armed form of Vishnu there. And he was amazed by that, that he actually externally, apart from internally, that he could see the four-armed form of Vishnu. And he was very captivated by that form. It's a four-armed form, bluish complexion, very beautiful with wonderful bangles, ornaments, like that. So the Supreme Lord is very, very beautiful. This is contrary perhaps to a lot of other people's idea of God, that he's an old man in the clouds with a beard, but rather that because practically speaking here in material society, we generally worship young, beautiful people. We don't really worship old people, who have got grey beards or grey hair or bald or anything like that. Like we worship, film stars or pop stars, like that, people who are young, people, who are very beautiful looking. So Dhruva Maharaj was very captivated by this form of Vishnu. But Vishnu asked him, he said, now you've seen me, what do you want? So Dhruva Maharaj said that I don't want anything, because I'm so satisfied, so pleased to see your form, that whatever I was desiring before is like broken glass. I've now found a gem in you, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I don't want anything else. So here we can see that Dhruva Maharaj's consciousness had changed, because when he went to the forest, first of all, he wanted to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he wanted this great kingdom, in order to get back at his father and his stepmother in that way. But because of practicing the instructions of Narada Muni, his consciousness had become purified, and therefore he became free from material desire. So like this verse that we're talking about, from becoming Sarvakama, from becoming full of desires, he became Akama, and he was free from desires. So, excuse me. So in the beginning of the talk, we were talking about buddhi yoga. Buddhi means intelligence. This type of intelligence, it doesn't mean material intelligence. It's not talking here about having academic qualifications like that, or being clever in that sense. Being able to think about so many different things at the same time. This is there's one place where she punches out the key. So it's not talking about that kind of intelligence. It also doesn't mean for one to come to Krishna consciousness that we have to be religious. I remember when I went to the Hare Krishna temple in Dublin, first of all. Although I'm from London, I never met the devotees in London. I met one in Dublin, and I went to the temple first of all. And I apologised for not being religious, because I was an atheist at the time. But I apologised for not being religious, and they said, oh, it doesn't matter. So when you come to Krishna consciousness, it can be like a clean slate. It can be something that you're learning new for the first time. It can be something that you can take on board if you have an open mind. Even if you come from a religious background, you may find also that it enhances your faith, that you actually can find things in Krishna consciousness which actually help you to understand God or Krishna better. So, obviously buddhi means spiritual intelligence. In the Vedas it says Atato Brahma Jigyasya, that in the human form of life one should inquire about Brahman. Brahman means spiritual subject matter. Most people are engaged in animal propensities, eating, sleeping, mating and defending, like that. We have those activities in common with the animals, but we have intelligence, we have a higher intelligence. That higher intelligence is meant to understand spiritual subject matter. So, if we're a human being, we should be asking ourselves, who am I really? What is this material world? Why is there suffering in the world? Is there God? Who is God? What's my relationship with God? Like that. These are the kind of, it doesn't mean, being affiliated with a particular institution like that. It means a personal investigation into absolute truth. That's really the main facility that we have in the human form of life. Because the animals can't do that, they're led by instinct, in that way. We can be led by instinct, but at the same time, we also have a higher intelligence that we can make discrimination in what we do. So, by using our intelligence, we may discover that there are certain deficiencies in material life. Can anybody give me what they are? Any of those things which are?
Propensity to cheat.
Sorry?
Is it a propensity to cheat?
These are from people's qualifications, but I mean the environment. I mean the material world.
There's no satisfaction.
No satisfaction, okay, yeah, we get happiness, there's happiness and distress. You can't say that we're always happy, and you can't say we're always distressed either. We have a mixture of the two of them. And sometimes the distress outweighs the happiness. It's like this body, for example. There's certain parts of the body that give us pleasure, but every single part of the body can give you pain. Like that. Anything else?
Happiness doesn't seems to be selfish in nature.
Well, yeah, I mean, happiness is something that we personally experience, isn't it? In that sense. Sometimes we find it doesn't last. Even if you do sometimes one thing which makes us happy, the next time we do it, it doesn't. Any other? Impermanence, yes, things don't last, do they? Yeah. Even if we want them to. Like, this body's not going to last. For me, probably not much longer. So yeah, I mean that's something that we have to bear in mind. Again, a sign of intelligence is understanding the temporality of the body, but what about the next life? Most people don't believe in the next life, actually, even though we're experiencing a change of body in this life. It's logical to accept that that we're actually not this body is one thing, because the body goes through so many changes from boyhood to youth to old age. The cells of the body change completely every 7 years, so we get a new body every 7 years, but we still retain the same sense of identity, and that identity is the soul and not the body. So one may ask, well, what's the destination of the soul in the next life? What are the criteria by which we get a different type of body? Will I get a human body in my next life? Will I get a demigod body? Will I get an animal body? These are the things that people have to think about. So this is, and then when we gain more information about these things, we find out about samsara, about the transmigration of the soul. That the soul is eternal, but it's in material realm. The soul is getting different bodies, life after life, in that way. So an intelligent person will understand that we have to experience birth, death, old age, and disease here. And some people may just shrug their shoulders and think, well, that's just life. But actually, if it incurs suffering, that's something necessarily we don't want. Because the soul is Dhanañjaya Dāsa. Everybody's, like you were talking about happiness, everybody in life is looking for happiness. Nobody's looking for misery. Is anybody here looking for misery? No. I mean, I might be a miserable type of person, but definitely we're all looking for different things or people or situations that can make us happy like that. Because that's our nature. It's the nature of the soul to want to be happy. But if you have to experience this samsara, this repeated birth, death, old age and disease all the time, an intelligent person will think, well, I don't want that anymore. So how do you free yourself from that? And this is where Buddha Yoga comes in. Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, even if you merge into the Supreme, generally you don't stay there for want of satisfactory activities and relationships. There's no relationships in the Brahmajyoti. Whereas in Krishna consciousness, we find that we can develop a personal relationship with Krishna. And this is our constitutional position. In the verse here, Krishna is saying that those who constantly devoted and worship with me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So we may come to Krishna consciousness, but at the same time, it's not that Krishna immediately is going to haul you back to Godhead. we also understand there's a spiritual world. Prabhupada talks about that, going back to Godhead. Back to Godhead means going to the spiritual world, which is where we belong. We don't belong here. We described the conditioned soul in the material realm is considered to be like a fish out of water. Now you can take a fish out of water and put him on land, and you can give him nice food, or you can stroke him or something like that. But the fish will never be happy until he's back in the water again. So it's a very simplistic example, but we're like that, and Krishna consciousness, it doesn't mean travel. It doesn't mean that we're suddenly going to use a spaceship and then we're going to go to the spiritual world. It means a change in consciousness. Rather than seeing ourselves as an enjoyer, a controller, and a proprietor. That was the three. Sorry, I think somebody's looking at me. That we see ourselves as eternal servants. Jiva Swarupavaya Krishna Nitya Das. It's described like that. The constitutional position of a living entity is that we're servants. In the material world, generally, to be a servant, sometimes it infers great inferiority, or even abuse or subjugation. You're not looked after. Whereas when you develop a relationship with Krishna, Krishna actually takes care of the devotee. Sometimes Krishna serves the devotee. He likes to serve. Just like on the battle, of course, the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. And on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna is not using bows and arrows to fight. He's driving the chariot of Arjuna. So a charioteer in the Vedic times was considered to be a very low position. But Krishna was prepared to do that because of love. So Krishna is a reservoir of love. He wants love, but at the same time he gives love back. This is reciprocation. Like that. I was listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada this morning, and he was saying that love isn't just one way. He says even in the material world, love isn't one way, it's reciprocal. You know, you love somebody and they love you. It may again be a perverted reflection of the love that's found in the spiritual world, but that's there. It's reciprocal. So in that way, when we actually try to serve Krishna, he can give us the facilities whereby we can come closer to him. Because it's not necessarily, although the processes, sometimes the activities of Krishna consciousness, they're not difficult. But at the same time, because of our conditioning, we also find that there are challenges to us to actually becoming pure devotees. Our hearts have been used to contain lust, anger and greed and envy. And envy is very prominent. We come to the material world because of envy of Krishna. Because we don't like that Krishna's the enjoyer. We want to be the enjoyer. Excuse me. So Krishna is asking for love without any demand for reward. Again, this is something which is unique, really, in that sense. But the pure devotee, someone who's very advanced in Krishna consciousness, he serves out of love, but he doesn't expect any reward. He doesn't expect anything else from Krishna. But Krishna also gives sometimes. He even gives material things. But generally, Krishna, he clears the path so that the person, the practitioner, can actually make great progress on the path of Krishna consciousness, and he can become free from these other things, karma and jnana. Although they may be aspects of trying to link up with God, ultimately those two things, they will be obstacles in our path. If we want material enjoyment, if we want to merge into the Supreme, if we still want to speculate about Krishna, and we don't need to speculate. We have tremendous information, both in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam's an encyclopedia of spiritual life. There's so many stories about the different incarnations of Krishna. And in the 10th chapter, 10th canto, you have the descriptions of Krishna, Lord Krishna, when he was present here 5,000 years ago. So we can understand what type of God Krishna is, you know. He's asking for love, but then you've got to know who he is. It's like if someone says to a girl, you must marry that man, and she says, well, you know, what's he like? Is he handsome? And the father said, I don't know. Is he wealthy? I don't know. Where does he live? I've not a clue where he lives. So you think, well, you know, it wouldn't be so inclined to marry that person. So if we want to love Krishna, we have to know what he is. And we get information from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about his power. Aham Sabhasra Prabhavo. He says, I'm the cause, I'm the origin of all spiritual and material worlds. This is his power. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, just like in the story of Dhruva Maharaj, we can see Krishna's reciprocation in his kindness in that sense. So this can be an inspiration for us either to start practicing or else to maintain and improve our practice of Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. Again, the path of Krishna consciousness is not meant for blind following. In the text where Prabhupada talks about surrender to the spiritual master, he said there shouldn't be absurd inquiries or blind following. You know, rather everything should be taken, you know, with caution. That doesn't mean when you understand everything, then you just let it all hang out and don't do anything. Prabhupada is saying here that Buddhi Yoga means action. Krishna consciousness, it doesn't mean, because Arjuna, when he's talking to Krishna, he wanted to retire, he wanted to give up fighting on the battlefield and go to the forest and just meditate. And Krishna says, no, you're a Kshatriya, you should fight. So similarly, we've got all some propensity to do some work. Of course, we've got spiritual activities as well. We've got hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. We have deity worship. We have cooking to do. We have serving the devotees. So many things that we can do. Preaching, like that. So Prabhupada said there should be some action that you can do for Krishna. So this is what we should be thinking about. What we can do. How we can glorify Krishna. How we can chant. How we can remember Krishna. And in that way, we'll become free from material entanglement, free from the material desires, and ultimately we'll qualify ourselves to go back to Vaikuntha. And when you go back to Vaikuntha, you don't come back here again. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. He says that place from which you having come, you never return. So, in the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada said we should be captivated by that information, that we can go to this wonderful place. But find out what it is. In the Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma, he gives a description of the Vaikuntha planets and the inhabitants there, what they're like in that sense. So we encourage everybody to chant, to read Srila Prabhupada's books, to engage in some kind of activity, service to the Supreme, service to the deity, service to the devotees. And that way we become happy and we become free from all doubts. So I'd like to stop there, and I'd like to ask if there's any questions, any comments, any criticisms, any, what is it, Chaitanya has reflections, isn't it? Any reflections that anybody would like to have. So thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful lecture. You were mentioning the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj and how determined he was to achieve his desire fulfilled. And you were also mentioning that in spiritual life there are so many obstacles and challenges.
Yes.
So how can we develop a determination like Dhruva Maharaj? Because it so happens in our spiritual life that as the time passes, our devotion, our determination slackens. So how can we keep it going?
I don't see why it should automatically slacken, because the more that you practice, the more that actually we should find out that even if we find after years of practice that we're still maintaining our practice, that's still a symptom of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Yes, Krishna consciousness isn't easy, and we have to find ways and means of being enthusiastic. Because Jiva Goswami talks about this in the Nectar of Instruction. That he said that that's one of the qualifications is utsaha, is enthusiasm. So we should always be enthusiastic to practice devotional service. I mean, one time Prabhupada gave a lecture, and one of the devotees said to Prabhupada, supposing I'm not enthusiastic about practicing, Krishna consciousness, he says, then you're an animal. He said. He was quite severe about that. Yeah, I mean, there are different ways that we can analyze our sadhana. We can analyze what we're doing. We can always do more. That's the whole point. We can always chant more. Prabhupada says chanting 16 rounds. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati told his disciples if they chanted less than 64 rounds, they were in Maya, practically speaking. That they were fallen. So we can always chant more. We can always read more. Association of devotees is also very important. We have our gatherings here, but we should take advantage of these gatherings that we can discuss about our sadhana, about what we're doing, and any difficulties that we have. It's important also we have friends in Krishna consciousness, people we can trust, somebody who takes an interest in our lives in that way. Because it's not just a mechanical process. As you say, it can be up and down in Krishna consciousness, but it's an endeavour. Krishna says, Neha Brikhamanasosti. He says, in this endeavour there's no loss or diminution. So, in that particular verse, Krishna's emphasising that even though we may take up Krishna consciousness or spirituality and only practice it for a short while, you take off where you left off in your next life. But he was saying it's an endeavour. Again, in this particular verse, he says, those who are devoted to me. He's talking about your consciousness, your emotions, your activities, what you're thinking about in that sense. So we can get guidance. You have a spiritual mentor, you have a spiritual master. Sometimes you can, confide in them and get some advice in that way. That answers the question. Any other points? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your wonderful lecture. Prabhu, how can we avoid our laziness and some distraction when we are to sadhana?
Laziness.
Yeah, laziness and some distraction.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, it's like sometimes when we come to Krishna consciousness first of all, and the devotees say, "Oh, we chant 16 rounds a day," and I say, "How much does that take?" And they say, 2 hours. I thought, well, I haven't got 2 hours. I haven't got 2 hours in a day. Why is that? Because it's not a priority. So we have to make Krishna consciousness a priority. You see. Some people, stuff like people say, "Well, I work." Yeah, you work, but I mean, you can get up early. You can always fit it in. It depends how important it is for you. That's the whole point of reading Srila Prabhupada's books and associating with the devotees. To find out, again, Krishna consciousness is not armchair philosophy. It's not just something that we read, oh, that's nice, Well, I read books like that before I was a devotee, before I took up Krishna consciousness from the library. Books which they sounded nice, but they didn't move you. They didn't make you change your life. Krishna consciousness completely changed my life, in that sense, my lifestyle. Not my personality, but the life. So in terms of, like you were saying, like laziness, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be lazy. I mean, again, you may have a lazy nature, but you know, we are conditioned to the different modes of goodness, passion and ignorance. So Krishna consciousness is actually a facility to elevate you. Like laziness is in the mode of ignorance, right? That's what we hear, you know. That in Prabhupada says this is the opposite of the mode of goodness, and being in the mode of ignorance actually is very detrimental to any kind of spiritual awareness, really, like that. So, if you find that you increase your sadhana, or you get up earlier in the morning or something like that, you know, it depends what's important for you in life. So yeah, we all have maybe work, we have study, we have things like this. But Krishna consciousness is something which is really important if you actually understand what it means. You know, as I say, elsewhere you can go somewhere, you can take it up a little bit. Because in the beginning you can take it up according to your capacity, you know. But once you become familiar with it, if you've been practicing for a number of years, then you have to then establish a real commitment to it, you know, if you really understand what it is, because that's what it demands. Krishna here is demanding love and devotion. We may be a long way from that, but we have to try to make a path so that we can make progress towards that, that's all. So yeah, we all have maybe some laziness about us, but to understand that being in that particular mode is definitely detrimental to spiritual awareness, that's all, yeah. Anything else? Yes, please.
Thank you for the lecture today. I just wanted to ask, like, how can we do everything with a sense of ease and not rush things like in our head every time, like it's a sense of urgency? Yeah,
again, this is like prioritizing things. You know, again, we understand that people have busy lives, but at the same time, if you actually want to commit yourself to sadhana, you have to give yourself prime time to do that. Even if it's chanting 2 rounds a day. If you do that, you know, say in the morning time, say you do it, I don't know, around 5 or 6 o'clock or something like that, but it should be in a quieted atmosphere like that. Not that you're chanting, you're going around doing different things at the same time, you know, or talking to somebody like that. Again, because it should be, as I say, we're aiming towards love and devotion. So therefore, we actually have to be conscientious, you know, in what we're doing. We don't just, because doing things kind of like willy-nilly, this is the mode of passion then comes in, you know, that you kind of just, you know, do something here, do something there, you know, kind of whimsically. But it's good to have a proper pattern in your life whereby you kindly come to the not the conclusion, but the situation where you find that spiritual life is something which is cemented in your lifestyle, and you do things at a certain time, and you don't detract from that. You know, you don't sway from that. That's all. It all comes to understanding and intelligence. You know, Krishna will give you the intelligence if you're like Dhruva Maharaj. If you're determined with it, Krishna will give you, you know, the determination to do spiritual practices at a certain time, to be with certain people, to avoid certain things. These things you find come about in your life if you actually have the determination and the sincerity to do it. That's all. Anything else? So we'll stop there. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Now we go on to the next part of the program, which is the Aarti. So thank you very much. Ki Bhagavad Gita ki.
Jai.
Ki.
Praise Dhanañjaya Dāsa.
Yeah.